Hello, friends. Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. And this is the Tell It Like It Is podcast. I have a very special guest today, TaraV.
Hello.
Hi, Tara. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And I'm really honored that you asked me to be part of this. So I'm really excited. This is really cool. It's very, very cool.
Tara, I'm trying to make history.
You will. You will.
I want,
Manifest it. You manifest it, it's coming.
I want one day someone will be sitting somewhere in like a university dorm, in a university classroom, and they're like analyzing these conversations.
Absolutely. Well, we learn from conversation, right? We learn from conversation. We learn from reflection. So, I mean, this is really cool. I think this is cool what you're doing. You've always been outgoing, right? I mean, you started the Runners United. I mean, you're so friendly and everything's wonderful about you. You whatever you want to do, you do. And I think that's so cool. Even when you were talking about your food and everything else, like you want to do it, you do it. It's great.
Well, that's the thing. I like helping people, and I feel like people need voices to kind of speak clarity into their reality.
Right. Absolutely.
And the scary thing about that to me is that I feel like there's an intentional energy to keep people in the daze.
Okay.
And, you know, it's the kind of thing that makes women buy makeup.
Of course.
Like if women all woke up tomorrow and was like, you know what, forget all of this femininity merchandising and advertising. I'm naturally feminine. You know, you wouldn't need to do your hair again. You wouldn't need makeup. You wouldn't need lipstick. Like men would still find us beautiful, you know, if we were just natural women again.
Right.
But now we would lose trillions of dollars in revenue from makeups and skincare and eye plucking and blow dryers.
Mm-hmm. It's true. No, it's true. You know, it's so funny you say that because I feel like I definitely worked in the fashion industry, right, for a while. So my business and how I made money was what magazines wanted, what editorial, what people were wearing, how my hair looked, and even presenting the part in the showrooms, looking like the brands. And you know, it's America's a funny country, right? Because it's like, you know, you have all these freedoms that you think you have, and you can be yourself, but really you're at the balls of money. I mean, even that would be a beautiful thought if women woke up and didn't put makeup on, but there's industries built behind it that employ people. And it's just crazy. I feel like you said, I feel like sometimes things in life are a little mechanical, and they are, you know, I mean, even with kids and scheduling. And I remember when I was a kid, I was allowed to do one thing, and it hardly cost money. You know what I mean? It was dance. I had to get dancing shoes for the year. Now these children, and I'll just say it, I live in an area of New Jersey that's pretty affluent. They have fencing, they have golf, they have ski. I mean, and I'm saying to my husband, I'm like, how the heck do you supposed to afford this? And we have one income in our home. I started a business, but I'm at the point where I'm kind of just breaking even. And I hope that it gets to where it needs to be. But it's just crazy. Like we're at the balls of money. Like honestly, we're just at the balls of money and keeping up with society. We really are. We truly, truly are. It's incredible. It's insane, actually.
So much of what I'm trying to do is just have people like remember who we are, you know, be our natural selves, connect with each other, like not get lost in, you know, media stories and political partisanship and like all of the stupid stuff that people kind of get torn up in. And I think we're at an important time now where people really need to be clear with what they're listening to, be clear with what they're saying, because a lot of good people are hurting each other because the way we argue, the way we do the things that we do.
Right. Well, the art of conversation is lost, right? I mean, right now, like it's lost. It is lost because you're right. You have Facebook. I mean, listen, I will fully admit it. I am totally part of that. That you couldn't tell me one thing, I didn't want to hear it. You know, you get so much fuzz in your ears, and you hear things and you think, well, no, well, I have to stick to my party and I'm going to believe this. And And I miss the art of conversation. And even when like I'm gonna hold up my phone, like texting, like I'm always texting and like, emailing and like, and I think even when you put words in print, it gets lost. Like the art of conversation needs to come back. And then all these, if even these beautiful quotes you see that maybe sometimes people post, or passive aggressive things that people post, like, I don't know, it's almost like you kind of lose faith in human nature sometimes. I know that I do. And I've definitely been on the other side of that, where I'm dishing out the hate and not even realizing that I'm doing it and that my words might be hurting somebody else, you know? So, that's why I think this is cool that you're doing this too, because I think that it gives people a chance, like you said, to see different things and what's going on in people's minds. So,
Well, all right. So I'm jumping right in, right? So
just jump in. I'm
the
in.
bottom line is, I think America is a unique place where we can like have, people from China, all over the world, Africa, Asia, like everywhere, come into this melting pot. And it's a chance for us to have an identity that never existed before.
Of course.
So we're still becoming that, right? And obviously, America is rooted in white supremacy. So
Absolutely.
we have to face that.
100%.
If we're gonna grow into this America where we're really about all these different races and a melting pot, where
Right.
we're really free, we have to break from this origin and
Right.
say, all right, this is who we are no longer. This is where we're going.
100% agree. And it's so fun. I'm so happy that you just went right into this, because I've been dying to go into this too. So, I think, and as a white woman, I will say this. If you would have said this to me a couple years ago, I would have been like, white supremacy, because my mind thinks of like KKK. That's what it goes to. It goes to something terrible, right? And I'm like, well, wait, I'm not a terrible person. Like, I'm not that, and then it goes into like the white privilege. If you would have told me about that I'm white privileged years ago, I would have been like, no, I grew up with a single mom and she had to make ends meet. And what do you mean privilege? Like, I had to work for what I have. Like, I didn't, I know what it's like to not have money and to have holes in my shoes. What are you talking about? I have to tell you, within 2019 to, I can cry, to 2020, I had a fucking gut punch. And I'm sorry to curse on this. I should take that back. I apologize. But I had a gut punch. I had a conversation with someone and they said to me, and they were like, Tara, I'm going to tell you white privilege so you understand it. And I'm like, okay. And like, you go into Target with someone of color and you have on the same clothes and it's nothing great. There's no name brands. It's just like a sweatpant and a sweatshirt because you're running in. Maybe you drop the kids off and they're sick and you have like throw up on you. I don't know. She goes, they're going to walk in and they're not going to follow you. They're going to follow the other person. And she's like, and that's white privilege. And the light bulb went off, because now I'm reflecting it in retail. And you know what? When I was working in retail, you were trained. Anytime someone was a thief or doing, oh, they look shady, follow them. And it went off. I'm like, it was always a person of color. It was always someone of Hispanic descent. It was profiling to a T. And that was the biggest gut punch I ever had in my life. And it completely changed my outlook on so many things in just that one statement. And I think I'm still learning and stuff like that. But even like, I'll bring up George Floyd. I watched someone on Instagram, and here I am bashing Instagram, but I saw something and it was interesting. And they were like, some people think, listen, no matter what happened, that's disgusting what the cop did. Cops in this country, there are some that are bad. But you hear the argument from some people, well, he was a criminal, he was on drugs. And the man said on the Instagram, he was like, well, you wouldn't walk into someone who had a heart attack and died's funeral and be like, well, they were a fat bastard with diabetes. Like, what did you expect was going to happen? I mean, we are so disgusting sometimes as human beings. And I'm just like, and it was just like, the light bulb goes off, right? The light bulb goes off. And then it turns into, well, how can I make myself better and understand this and maybe not be so offended? It's so funny too, because like, I'll even say it, white people, like, everyone's so offended these days. Well, yeah, I mean, but it is offensive. Like, we're freaking offensive. And there is a white supremacy and there is a white privilege. And you're right. I think we just need to realize it. And it doesn't mean that I need to go. I think too, some people think that they need to like, go out, all right, I'm white, I'm like the worst person. It doesn't mean that. It just means like, understand it and do something to help somebody or to spread light on like what is going on around us and bring people together instead of like, there's just like this divide. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that.
Where in New Jersey are you?
So I live in Bernardsville. Bernardsville is in Somerset County. Listen, I'm right by Mendham. I am near Warren, New Jersey. I mean, it's there's a lot of my home is not like that, but there are homes that are literally like I don't know, $6 million, like some of them even higher. And that's just the area I live in. Pfizer, Pharmaceuticals. The mansion is is like in my town. So, I mean, Bernardsville is cool though, too, because it's like, so you have like a downtown and there's a train and I'm not going to say, I think that here, I think it's predominantly white. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke and be like, oh yeah, it's so like, racial inclusive. We have a huge, like a larger Hispanic population here, Paraguayan actually to be exact. But yeah, I mean, there is definitely it's not as diverse. How about that?
How old are your boys now?
So Vincent's going to be 8 years old in December. Joey just turned 5 on Halloween, and Michael just turned 3 on October 11th. So,
do you socialize with stay-at-home moms? Your oldest is 8.
I do. This is going to go into something else too that I'm sure you're going to want to talk about later. So I'll just brush it lightly. So that we moved them to a private school. Vincent, my oldest, is gifted, and I know every parent says that, but he truly is. And I never like, you know what I mean? But he truly is. And actually, on the advice of his kindergarten teacher when he was in the public school, was to put him in a school when COVID, when everything was shutting down, to get him in a school that was 5 days a week, because he is truly gifted in math and science. And so the preschool we had put them in, our town New Jersey doesn't have universal preschool, so you have to pay for it. So regardless, they were in the Catholic school anyway. It's across the street from my house. As a child, I actually did go to parochial school myself, and I liked it. But we went to public school. New Jersey schools are wonderful, and she was one who told us to put the kids in 5 days a week. So we did. And it stuck one more year because he's going to receive his communion. I don't know what's going to happen next year. It is expensive. It's an expense that, I mean, it is a privilege, right, to send your kids to a Catholic school. I mean, who do I socialize with? So I still socialize with a lot of moms from the public school. Some of them are working moms. A lot of them are teachers. And then in the Catholic school, I have to be honest with you, it's a lot of working parents. I mean, you would think in this area, you would see like a ton of like nice cars pulling up, but I actually feel like at the Catholic school, I probably met more like moderate to lower income families than I did in the public school. And just because of the area that I'm in. But yeah, I feel like some of them are stay at home. I see, or maybe make their own hours. I mean, in COVID, let's face it, people work from home now.
Sure.
So, so I will say that there are working moms, but if, in my area, yes, there's women. I mean, I'm in running clothes. I dropped my kids off at 7:45. I went for a run. So, I mean, it is what it is, So yeah, there are stay-at-home moms here. I mean, there's like bar methods and cycle bars and, it's Bernardsville.
The scene. Yeah, so much of this is like, we don't even see it, right? Like I just, it takes a while, like you said, to have that aha moment where you just kind of take the glasses off and it just all kind of clicks.
Yeah.
Where are you now? Like what are you seeing right now?
So, and so we were talking about like the kneeling and the stuff like that. And I wanted to tell you about this too. I mean, I was so angry when players were kneeling. And again, once I had that aha moment, it kind of broke me, because I'm like, you know what? They're kneeling. It's almost like you're begging like the country to like just be with us. Like you're begging. And they're not kneeling to be disrespectful. You're begging. Like, it's actually sad. It's like when a mother is like begging her son who's maybe like a crackhead, like, please stop. Like you're begging, like get your heart and soul. You're begging. Like, it's just, I'm going to cry. It's like, it just boggles my mind. I don't know. Cause I mean, like I said, when I was a kid, I wasn't raised to hate. And it's so funny because, like I said, then in the work world, you're almost trained it and you don't even realize it. And it's just like, we have to unravel that, I don't know.
So no, so I appreciate your honesty, right? So Kaepernick from the 49ers,
Niners, yeah.
he started kneeling during the anthem, and it was seen as disrespectful to the flag, right? So we know that the media had that message, and we know that some politicians join in, right?
Right,
And at the same time, he's saying, I love America. I'm kneeling because of police brutality.
right.
So instead of saying, well, this country needs to work on that, they're like, no, you're disrespecting the flag.
Right. No, 100%. It's like one of those things because I mean, also too, like when you think about the flag, right? And this is coming from someone who has like family who are police officers or like in the military, you kind of do see a different side of that as well. And this is just honest, like some people, they have some loved one away, and then you get the knock on your door, and it's the flag. They're coming to tell you someone's dead, right? And I think that just gets jaded. And I think the message that Kaepernick was giving was jaded, especially for me coming from a family with law enforcement and stuff like that. So for me, yeah, it got jaded. And then I'm gonna say something, I'm being honest. When he wore the socks with like the pigs on it and the bacon, that bothered me because
Mm.
I'm like, we're trying to again, in the time I was in a different mindset, but it's almost like some people are speaking when we need to come together. Not every person of color is bad, not every white person's bad, but now you're depicting cops as bacon. I'm like, you're doing the same thing that you don't want everyone else to do. And then the message to me got completely lost, and that kind of turned me off a little bit. And again, didn't have conversation about it with him himself, and I feel like no one really, even when they interviewed him, it was almost like those either interviews were lost. I personally just didn't even watch them, or Nike, had him on a cover of something and I was angry about it. So emotions were definitely in the way. So I think if I had a conversation with him now, and even like thinking of him now, I don't even think he's a bad guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, he is literally just like defending what he should have been defending at that point. And maybe the message just got lost in translation.
So
Obviously.
what was your political affiliation at that time?
So I was a registered Republican. It's so I had this conversation with a friend of mine. I think it's because I was raised that way. And it was just like, okay, well then that's the politics I'm gonna follow. And that's what I'm really gonna dissect and study. And I'm not really gonna listen to what anyone else has to say because they're wrong. And yeah, so I mean, and that's what I did. Now I'm affiliated just as an independent because quite honestly, in New Jersey, I'm not a fan of Murphy. Who wasn't a fan of TaraLynn. Like, like I mean, I'm just being completely honest. So I'm just more of an independent, I mean, even so for my spirituality, I'm a Roman Catholic. And for a while I wasn't affiliated really with anything. And I do love my parish here. They're pretty progressive. And I'm going to have my confirmation. I'm going to be confirmed. I was never confirmed. I only went up to communion. And but even with that, I'll even say it, like when it comes to like women's rights, and this was something even before my like awakening, I'll call it. I would never tell someone they couldn't have an abortion. I would never. I think that the bigger issue with that is that, first of all, it's sex education, number one. And number two, if you look at the statistics, and you can look these up, I think they say for like every abortion, it's like, I think whatever the percentage, it's definitely over 70% are people of color. And it is usually they're on their second or third abortion by the time they're 18. And to me, and if they're getting abortions and they're from low income areas, where is the money coming from to have the abortions? Probably coming from a pimp, or I mean, these girls are probably selling themselves. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm just saying I don't, that number is only really 1 to 2% of rape. And that's terrible even in itself. And these kids are practically getting raped if they're having sex that young. I can't tell anyone what to do with their body. But I think that maybe if we focus on helping these girls in these areas and like, I mean, you got to think about comes with that. Is there STDs going around? How come they're not getting free birth control? How come they're not getting free Plan B? Like, why is it going? That's traumatic to have an abortion. I mean, I don't know. Most women who come out and say they had it will usually admit how bad it is. And there are babies. Those are babies. Like, how old are your sons now?
10, 11, and 16.
Okay, so now you're 16-year-olds. Let's say, I mean, imagine it's just they're still a baby to you. They're not grown-ups. They're still a baby. And even as for women who get the late-term abortions that people want to fight, I don't blame a woman though, because I mean, you can't even get, some people don't even get the blood work. They don't find out something's wrong with their fetus until 20 weeks. Maybe they need to rethink healthcare a little bit and maybe give some access to these women when they're, like for me, for instance, I got blood work when I was nine weeks along. So I knew if something was wrong, you know? I mean, it's just everyone is so quick to like shame and yell instead of like looking at the bigger picture. Anyway, so. And my spiel about the Roman Catholics thing is like I'm supposed to like detest abortion, but I don't, because I'm a person and like I don't want to just be affiliated that I am this way and I don't tolerate anybody else. You know what I mean?
Do you
So
get the sense that they're asking you to be against abortion?
I don't think so. I think what happens though is like if I tell someone I'm receiving my confirmation, that they think I'm a little weird. They're like, well, you're almost 40 years old. Why are you going back to the church? Are you like a weirdo? And I'm just being real, right? Like it's to be my husband. He's not very religious and he thinks I'm a weirdo. He calls me a weirdo to my face. He's like, oh, you're gonna go kumbaya this weekend. I'm like, F you. Like, you know what I mean? Like it makes me feel good. I don't know. Um, I feel like I've been praying a lot more, and even for my children and what's going on in the world, and that's who I turn to. I mean, who do we turn to when someone's dying and you pray to God, like please let them cross over, or someone's missing, you pray to God, like why is that okay? But if I want to pray every day, it's like I'm a psycho weirdo. You know what I mean?
What you said you were Republican up until. So what led to that up until?
So I have to say it's when I had my little like 2019. I really had like I said a gut punch. I had a gut punch and I didn't like this. And even with this whole abortion thing that's going on, I don't like that. I think there's bigger fucking issues in the world, like whether or not someone's doing that. Again, like I said, scale it back. Why is she having an abortion? How many times has she had one? Well, how old is she? Which area is she? If you like, there is seriously like a problem. Like, I just feel like no one wants to dissect the problems. They just want to, no, we're all going to see this and you're an asshole because of it, you know?
I do want to we are going to get to the abortion thing, but I wanted you to talk a little bit about this aha moment, the gut punch.
Yes.
Was there something that led up to that conversation that made it impactful, or was
Yeah.
it
Well,
just the pure
yeah,
impact?
no, I kind of went off Instagram a little bit and Facebook because I started to realize, and this is just my own personal thing too, that I was just angry. I was just mad. And even like when was trying to defend my views a couple of years ago, I was just always mad. And I was like, I don't want to be mad anymore. We have too much madness. And then when the whole Black Lives Matter movement really got rolling, um, we had a walk in my town. I took my son, and Vincent asked me, he goes, Mommy, first he said, Mommy, why do they hate police so much? And I said, I don't think anyone hates police. I said, there's just some bad people out there that do mean things and we need to stop it. And he's like, oh, so when someone's not nice, like on the playgrounds, like, and it makes you feel bad. I'm like, exactly. I'm like, you need to stick up for someone who's getting bullied. And I saw like the innocence in my kid's eyes who like didn't, get it. And then we had the news on and he saw it. Not that I hide it anything from him, but it was a nightly news. So they talk about everything. And we have cousins who, interracial cousins. And he's like, so does that mean that everyone's mean to Dara and Halia and Uncle Daryl and Josephine? And I said, no. I said, I'm like, but maybe sometimes, and we just need to make sure we stick up for everybody. And he also had his African American friend Jace, and he's like, is everyone going to be mean to Jace when Jace is older? Like he was so worried, and I was like, we're just gonna be nice to our friends, and we're gonna treat everybody equally, and it doesn't matter. Like we're gonna be nice, and we're gonna be good people, and we're gonna stand up for what's right. You just always have integrity. I was like, integrity, integrity. So I think being a mother and seeing my child in this like really progressive thing going on was really like eye-opening for me as well.
So can you place your finger on where in your roots, specifically what you were told? Like, was it not mentioned? Were you just like they say, well, you're Republican, or was there some Republican ideas?
What's so crazy? I can't. I think so. I don't. It's not, politics wasn't really spoken about in my house. It wasn't like a conversation. And even like the elections, like I remember having elections in school, and like we were just picking like people who are our friends. And when I was first allowed to vote, I actually voted for. Oh my gosh, I should know this by heart. But my first election wasn't George Bush. It was prior. And who did I vote? Who was in the election before George Bush? Why can't I even think of this right now? Who was before George Bush? Clinton. No. Yes. No.
Voted for Clinton.
Right. I think it was Clinton, right? I voted for him. So, and it was mostly because my friends in school were voting. I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna vote for him too. And then then in the following election when I voted, I voted Republican. And I'm gonna be honest, I believe it was just because I didn't research anything. I did a quiz online, and it was like, who you should vote for when they had those like weird quizzes. And it did come up that I should vote for George Bush, but it was only the percentage was like it was like I was right in the middle, so I was like, well, that's what I'm voting for. And then I think I was just influenced from the area around me, and like my dad never told me like who you had to vote for or anything like that. I tried to be as educated, I guess, as I could. I mean, it was in my 20s, I was too busy about like partying and stuff like that, but I was like, oh no, but I'm Republican, wasn't my friends. It wasn't until I got married, and that's kind of shameful, especially that we have a good right that it's a right, we can vote, that I actually started to like research and stuff like that. So yeah.
Did you have a sense? All right. Well, let's just say it this way, and you can tell me if you agree or not. It sounds like you were just, like an average young person, not focusing on politics.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. No, I really didn't. Honestly, if you had to like put like what was more important, it was like, oh no, my job was most important. Physical fitness was second important. Paying my bills was like third important. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I just kind of going with the notions, where's the party kind of thing. And I didn't even really
Was
care.
there a sense of injustice in America during that stage?
You want to know the truth? Honestly, I didn't. It was in my 20s, and I was working in Manhattan, and I didn't. At this point, I was a corporate. I wasn't retail level, and I didn't feel. I didn't feel it. It's the truth. I did not feel it, and it really sounds like kind of shallow, not closed-minded, but a little shallow. But I didn't even think about it. But and then being honest, I don't think I thought about it because I thought that I thought I was a good person. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, I'm just like, I'm friends with everybody. I have friends in any color.
You're a good person. You don't see racism around you.
Right.
You have nothing against people of color. So it was kind of out of sight, out of mind.
100%. 100%.
So I'm saying, did you have a sense that there was injustice in America, like outside of your vicinity?
No, because at that point, I really truly felt like, well, I'm working hard, and everyone around me is working hard. If you work hard, you're gonna get what then you're gonna.
Felt like all of America was like Manhattan, and everyone had a job, and it was just like.
Right. No, it's yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We're all working, and we're all maybe struggling to pay our rent, but we're all in this together. I really was like, my life was a party.
So someone said to you, Black people are going through a lot of injustice right now.
I would have been like, what do you mean? And I'm actually going to bring up Eric Gardner, and when that whole spiel happened, I even said, I was like, all right, I'm like, I get no one should die. I'm like, but I mean, if he had a rap sheet that long and there was warrant out for his arrest, not really sure why he's resisting arrest, like no one's going to believe you when you say you can't breathe because of integrity, and I just pushed it off. Just like the thing I said, like when I told you the guy on the Instagram with the would you go into a wake of someone who died of a heart attack from diabetes? Like I was that person. I was like, well, whatever. I mean, he resisted arrest. I wouldn't believe him either. That was my mindset. And I'm not going to say I'm disgusted by it, but it's the truth. Like that was my mindset.
So where you are now, right? And with everything else you see going on in America, what do you want to say to that?
America needs to get their shit together. I think that it's okay. Listen, we all have opinions. And like you said, the art of conversation. We need to all have just a conversation, and like a real conversation, not one that is politically driven, not one that's going to take away money from a union or take away people. It needs to have a true conversation about it and educate on what is really happening. I mean, like, and maybe even come up with a better fucking term than white supremacy, even though I get it now, but maybe to not scare, or maybe open up the conversation to someone else, and like the privilege. I don't really know what the answer is. I don't, if I could have a conversation with my old self, it would be open your eyes and, you know, look around you and look at the despair in some people's faces. Look at what's going on. Look at just look around you. I mean, even like now, okay, like Kamala Harris, like how cool is that she's in office, right? Like that is a big deal. Even Hillary Clinton running and almost winning the presidency. Like you know, there are so many monumental things that can happen in America, and we just need to like push for it. I mean, it's I don't even know if I mean, it definitely starts at home. You know, and then school's a touchy subject too, because I was like, oh, but you're going to teach them too much of this and not enough of this. And, you know, I don't know. I feel like maybe feel like maybe communities need to be more involved as well. I don't know if maybe more people like what you're doing right now with the conversation, like conversation tour bus, you know, and going to different towns and just starting a conversation about it. Because, and I think people need to realize it's okay that if you were quote unquote wrong, or it's okay to like, let's normalize changing your opinions, right? Like normalize it, like just normalize that, change my opinion.
Right.
Like it's okay to change your opinion. You don't have to like be stuck in like this like constant cycle.
I
So
think I think there are people out there who wouldn't want to admit they're wrong.
no, who wants to admit they're wrong? I mean, your whole life, even when you're in school, yeah, when you're a kid, they do corrective criticisms like, oh, show me the blue cup, show me the red cup. And like, this is blue. No, but it's red, but good job. But then, you know, you get to second grade and it's like, you're failing. You know what I mean? Like if you get something wrong, and again, the art of conversation, I think maybe kids need to learn that. I don't know how. I don't know if it's to bring back like mini debates in school. I remember when I was a kid, I remember debating when I was like in second grade. My son, his academics are wonderful, but I don't think he does like mini debates and like current events. Like there's no current events. There is zero current events. Even when he was in the public school, we remember having to clip the newspaper and you bring the newspaper in and talk about something that was going on and you worked on it with your parents and I had to time it. It was like 2 minutes long. You don't do that anymore.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. So I think that would be real eye-opening for a child with the current events. I don't know.
So I think like I'm glad that I reached out, you know, and I'm glad that you were able to show up in this space so authentically. You know, so much of what we going on now, you see it with things like the Karens.
Yeah,
Like
it's the truth.
it sounded like you had a Karen phase.
I did. 100% did. I 100% did. I'm telling you right now. I literally was like, well, wait a minute. I'm a good person. I work. I pay my bills. I do have to do. Like, don't tell me I'm privileged. And I'm like, it really, I think people need that gut punch. And I don't know. I don't know what it is. I can tell. I've had the conversation with my friends who are white, and I've said the whole thing with like the Target, you know, analogy. And I said, even like in the malls, and even my friends I used to work retail with, I'm like, don't you remember? Like it was always someone of color or someone's Hispanic that we had to like follow in the store. You know, like it was ridiculous. And then yeah, I don't know. It was just you know, we were paid, we were molded that way, you know, and didn't even realize it. So and then like you said, like working in the city and being around people with so many different backgrounds. I mean, even where I worked, I had some transgender associates, and actually even like my babysitter, I will not say his name because he's young, but he's transgender. You know, for me it's like normal, you know. I couldn't fathom that around me it wasn't normal because I was in like this bubble. So
I like the conversation tour bus.
that's not cool. Conversation tour bus.
Yeah.
Like, so we do a thing in this town. So funny. It's called Coffee with a Cop. And like, if you want to talk about things that are going on in the town, I mean, let's face it, my biggest problem here is like speeders. And like, I just maybe it's like some like high profile drug use, which is, you know, another issue. But you know, but I don't know, have a conversation tour bus where people just can like kind of like talk and like and have a conversation and maybe have those moments where it's like an aha or a, you know what, you're right. I didn't think of it that way.
So Tara, here's the thing, right? I think so I got to a place where I feel like I'm always in the work. So I feel like I'm I'm woke to what the issues are, right?
Mhm.
And then I realized there's some people out there that no matter what you say to them, they're never going to hear you. They're never going to like acknowledge what you're saying as happening or facts. Everything you say, they have a counterpoint,
Right.
right? And a lot of these people, they're either A, very well read, or they watch a lot of certain TV channels.
Of course. Well, I mean, it's geared towards like, all right, right. We have news. What is it? There's like the Fox 5 versus like the CBS. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, there's more conservative, and there's always a narrative, and there's always something to fit that narrative, right?
These people are very good at memorizing a narrative that they got from TV or the New York Times, and they're able to regurgitate it with convincing accuracy. So
Right.
now you have so many people who they get their daily dose of news and then they go and spit it back and forth to each other, argue it out, but no one's really listening and no one's really having the real conversation with the real people on their
Right.
street.
Right. Well, and it's I'm gonna spin what you just said a little bit, because that's the beauty of America, right? Is that we can have our own opinions, right? I mean, we're allowed to have our own opinions, even if maybe humanitarian, they're not like humanitarian, or maybe if they're not, I don't even know what the word is, but like everyone can have their own opinion, and no one has to change their, I mean, as people should change their opinions, but I'm just saying, like, technically no one's forcing you to change your opinion,
Right.
right? Like,
No,
you
I'm
can
with
talk
you.
blue in my face and I can be like, well, I still don't agree with you. I just don't want to agree with you, and you're right, it's a closed mindedness. And but that's like a media thing, and that's going to take years and years to break. But what you're doing is helping it. Having the conversation is helping it. If you didn't reach out to me, you wouldn't know my opinions may have changed. Like, do you know what I mean? And maybe you would associate me as like the, that white girl, she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about, kind of thing. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just being honest. Like, so we're a new country. America's really a newer country than all the other countries in the world, right? Like we're new. We're only a couple hundred years old, and things, so much progression has happened. It didn't really start till the 60s, and even then it's not progressed, and we're still seeing progression. So it's going to take some time. It's not going to be an overnight fix. And I think that I do think that when there are people who are intolerant of you, that sometimes it goes the other way as well. Well, I'm intolerant of them because I don't like their opinion. And you almost get tired because you're sick of tired of trying to change their opinion. But like, you do have to be patient as well, because I mean, no one's opinion is going to change overnight. And you have to just keep chipping and chipping and chipping and chipping and chipping and chipping, and at least having the conversation. So
Did you feel like there was a chipping, like you had hard and fast views and it sounded like you hit rock bottom with it, like you were in a certain mindset and you stayed in that mindset and you just hit a rock bottom and you were just like there has to be something else, as opposed to feeling like a shifting towards like, oh no, maybe they're not all bad. It sounded like
yeah, I didn't have a chipping. You're right. It was more like I had to like hit the wall, get gut punched with it. And I think, like I said, I think, yes, some people can be chipped away. I really do feel that. I feel like with the conversation that we're having, it might even open your eyes to like why certain people maybe feel the way that they feel, about certain things. For instance, like being in the bubble doesn't make someone a bad person. It's just because that's just what they're surrounded with. But you know, someone has to hit rock bottom and someone has to be sucker punched by themselves. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but that's why I think the conversation with you is great. And if you could take this on tour, you might get a few gut punches to some people.
I
Yeah.
think, like, so I live in Princeton, New Jersey now,
So
okay?
people down there.
And it's, I don't even want to say super white, but I would say that there's a lot of people who just don't get it. They have those glasses on and I think you described it well. With everything they see, they don't see racism, they don't see this, they don't, so what they're exposed to doesn't reflect this other reality that some people are living.
Right. So
And
here's the thing. it's experience, right? So like, I mean, you don't learn for anything until you experience something. So for me, it was experiencing the conversation. And I think where you are in Princeton, like, I mean, it's beautiful down there. I mean, the trees and the things. And I think of Princeton and I think of it very like progressive and liberal. I mean, you have the Princeton University and stuff like that. Again, that's so, I don't know, live there. And now hearing it from you, I'm like, oh, really? Wow. Tell me more. Like, I didn't realize it was predominantly white down there. And I didn't realize that it wasn't so, like, is it not progressive enough, you don't think? Or you think that everyone just lives in kind of how I was living, like in my bubble, like I'm a good person, doesn't matter, you know?
Exactly.
Okay.
In their own bubble, I'm a
Okay.
good person. I feel like there is a disconnect with how do I connect with the other people around me.
Right.
And so it's not just a black people thing, right? I feel like the white people amongst themselves are not like having dinners with each other. It's all very stiff.
Oh yeah. Well,
Right?
I mean, it's stiff. That Bernardsville is stiff too. I mean, it's even just on the not even bringing race into it in this town alone. So like I said, there's $1 million homes and there's homes that are just like 100,000, whatever. And it's definitely like segregated, like I'm not segregated. It's definitely like broken up by like your demographic. So like some of those people aren't talking to me, you know what I mean? And I don't think it's because they don't want to. I just think it's just separated. It's just separated. I think that's why people like the city and are drawn to city areas because it's more lively. It's the truth. That's what I think of the city. I think of inclusivity and stuff like that. And so funny to say this even out loud. Also, we moved to Bernardsville. My husband works in Newark, New Jersey, and he needs to live someplace where he can get to Newark fast, but he wants it to still be peaceful and like the mountains or whatever. So this is why we're here. But two of my stipulations to our home was that I needed sidewalks because I wanted my kids to ride a bike on a sidewalk, and I wanted a train station or bus to Manhattan because I wanted my kids to be able to go and to do things. And and it was a trade-off because to have that in a downtown area of New Jersey, especially where I am, it's a little bit older. You have to downsize your homes. I mean, my house is over 100 years old. We renovated it. But my husband grew up in Warren, New Jersey, which is really completely white. And he had 2 acres, and I remember, so when we lived in Staten Island, my mom, I didn't know my biological father. My mom got married to my stepdad, who would never call my stepdad, so you'll hear me refer to him as my father. They got married. We moved to Secaucus, New Jersey, and he was a Hudson County guy. And then he moved to Greenbrook, which is Somerset County as well, where the county I'm in now. Their regional, this was in high school. Their high school was regional and went to school with the kids in Warren. And I actually knew my husband in high school. And it's so funny because I didn't like him. I was like, oh, this kid, he doesn't even know. Like,
Sarah,
I was,
Sarah,
yeah.
hold on one second.